Let's fellow colleagues, again, these are infrastructure motions, so I now put the question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Motion referred to the relevant committees of the House. The ninth order of the day is a motion on the incident of fire disaster at GSM Market in Maiduguri, standing in the name of Honorable Abdul Kadir Rahis. Honorable Rahis is invited to move the motion.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I remain Honorable Abdul Kadir Rahis, member representing Maiduguri Federal Constituency of Borno State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move a motion on the incidence of fire disaster at Global System Mobile Communication GSM Market in Maiduguri. The House notes that the popular Maiduguri GSM Market was razed down by fire on the night of Thursday, 1st October 2019, destroying goods and equipment worth hundreds of millions of naira. Aware that the market was a major hub for sales and repairs of GSM and other information and communication technology, ICT equipment accessories in Maiduguri and indeed Borno State, and it was also serving as a training facility for boarding technicians in the GSM and ICT industry. Worried that the unfortunate incident is a major setback as it robs the determined use of their employments and means of livelihoods, hence the need for strategic intervention to bring succor to the victims. Also aware that the current and immediate past administration in the state have made deliberate efforts at promoting and empowering youth through ICT-related activities in the market. But the scope of the impanel now called for intervention of the federal government. Resolves urge the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development and the Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria, SEMEDAN, to provide assistance urgently to the traders and technicians to enable them recover their losses. Send a delegation to cooperate with the victims and the government of Borno State. I so move, sir.
Seconder, yes, sir. And black cap.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Ali Adeyemi, representing Motion 1 for Agriculture in Lagos. I rise to second the motion moved by my friend from Borno State. Mr. Speaker, I so second. Thank you.
Honorable Rais, you may lead the debate.
Colleagues, it's on, man. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the motion is a straightforward motion. It is about a disaster at the popular Maiduguri GSM Market, which started around 8 p.m. on the night of Thursday, 31st October 2019, and completely razed down the market before it could be contained. Honorable colleague, Mr. Speaker, I stand before you with a heavy heart, not only to sympathize and commiserate with, but to also cry along with my constituents about this tragic misfortune and the resultant losses of the victims, who are mostly youths that were gainfully employed by the market side. As is the prayer of the motion, I call on this honorable House to support this motion and urge the relevant agencies of the federal government to bring immediate succor to the victims to enable them get back to their peak list. I raise my case, sir. Thank you, sir.
Colleagues, this is a disaster-related motion, so I now put the question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Motion referred to relevant committees of the House. Point of order? What's the point of order? Order what?
Mr. Speaker, I'm Dachung Bagos, representing Jos South, Jos East from Plateau State. I'm standing on Order 6, Section 1 on matter of privileges, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my privilege as a member of this very hallowed, respected chamber, few minutes ago, while my respected colleague from Bauchi, from the State of Power, was moving his motion, the light and power in this house went off, Mr. Speaker. It's a very serious issue, Mr. Speaker, as laughable as it is, that a respected hallowed chamber like this will go off while members are debating on national issues, and it's televised live with you seated as Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to call that the Committee on House Services should check why is it that for the first time since I came into this hallowed chamber, Mr. Speaker, that the light went off while plenary is going on. Because if something is not done, it's going to be very embarrassing for this House, Mr. Speaker, that is possible next week again.
Honourable members, I want to still remind that
so, Mr. Speaker, I want to
should not approach the chair
House
without
Services
the permission
should
of the chief whip. That rule
That's
is
my point of
sacrosanct.
Well, Honorable Bagos, while I appreciate the fact that it's not good for us to experience that kind of situation, but you yourself have said this is the first time this is happening. And I, as a matter of privilege, I don't see how this is relevant to it. We say what happened, but it's not under privileges. My brother and I want to be guided, and all want us to be guided. In line with that, I rule you out of order. You are. Respected colleagues, the 11th, the 10th order of the day is a motion on a call to, for humanitarian and aid for victims of flood in Ibi local government area of Taraba State. Standing now, Honorable Usman Anjuma Shidi. Honorable Chidi is invited to put the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Honorable Danjuma Usman Shidi. I represent Lukari, Ibi Federal Conference. I'm from Taraba State. I rise to move a motion to call for humanitarian aid to victims of flood in Ibi local government area of Taraba State. The House note with concern that Tampa district of Ibi local government area of Taraba State, located at the south bank of River Benue, was overrun by devastating flood on 26 October 2019. After a heavy downpour, which resulted in the overflow of the banks of the river. Concerning that more than 10,000 persons have been displaced and over 200 houses and farmlands were being damaged by the flood. Aware that the victims of the flood are now taking refuge in Ibi town and some other neighboring villages in Ukari without proper shelter, health care, and food. Worried that the victims are now exposed to health hazard and undue social exploitation as a result of the flood. Resolved to urge the Ministry of Federal Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development and the Northeast Development Commission to send relief materials and other forms of humanitarian aid to the victims. Mandate the Committee on Emergency and Disaster Preparedness ascertain the state of affairs and estimate of damage caused by the flood and propose recommendations on measures to prevent the occurrence. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder? Honorable Benjamin.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Dr. Richard Bande. I represent the people of Kasinala, Ukum, Logo Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Benue State. I rise to second the motion moved by my colleague and my neighbor, Usman Danjuma. I so move second, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Colleagues, again, this is an infrastructure-related motion, but there's one amendment from Honorable Benjamin. You can move the amendment so that we'll put the question. Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Benjamin Bem Nzondu. I represent the people of Mafudi, Buma Federal Constituency, and we are all from Benue State. I also speak for the unemployed in this country, Mr. Speaker. I rise to propose an amendment that the relief materials as so proposed by the motion be also extended to my federal constituency, which is right now in dear need of these relief materials, particularly that the flood have sacked so many communities, including the state capital. That is my amendment, Mr. Speaker, and may your days be very, very long.
Any seconder? Honorable Fago.
Mr. Speaker, sir, my honorable colleagues, good afternoon. My name is Honorable Kani Abubakar Fago, representing the good people of Shira and Gyade Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm from Bauchi State. I rise to second the motion for the amendment ably presented by my honorable colleague. I so second. Thank you.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of the motion as amended say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Motion referred to 11 committees of the House. The 11th order of the day is a motion on call for establishment of additional centers of the Inter-University French Language Village, Badagry, Lagos, standing in the name of Honorable Salisu Iro Isansi. Honorable Isansi is invited to move the motion. Rules, move that we step down this motion by the House.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Salisu is not on the floor. I apply that the motion be stepped down by the leader of the House. Sorry.
Down by the leader of the House. The 12th order of the day is a motion on insecurity in Maru Bungudu Federal Constituency of Zamfara State, standing in the name of Honorable Sheikh Ahmad. Honorable Ahmad is invited to move the motion.
Mr. Speaker, respected colleague,
Honorable Tata, approach the chair.
my name
Approach the chief whip.
remain Honorable Sheikh Ahmed Esplani, a member representing Warubungudu Federal Constituency and from the State for the Speaker. So, Speaker, rather create a motion on insecurity in Warubungudu Federal Constituency, the State, the House. Not that the states have been driven by the menace of insecurity challenge in the last 8 years, with attendant consequence on food security and employment. Also note that the Maru local government area is one of the largest local government, the largest, had the largest landmarks in Nigeria, with a population of over 70,000 inhabitants, and also shared border with Kebbi, Niger, and in the south, Birnin Gwari, Kaduna State, and Dandume in Kaduna State. Aware that Marubungu Federal Constituency has a thick forage, which serves as a haven for the criminal, and despite the increasing criminal activity in the state, there is a very low presence of security personnel in the state, as the police presence could be put at a ratio one policeman to over 5,000 persons in the constituency, making it below the UN standard of one police to 400 citizens. Resolved to urge the Inspector General of Police to upgrade Maru Divisional Police Station to the status and area command, as well as establishing mobile police mobile supporting units in Tansado Emirate. To complement the police divisions in Marubungu Federal Constituency. 2. To urge Commandant General of the Nigerian Security Civil Defense Corps to deploy more personnel in the constituency to checkmate the activity of the criminal. 3. To mandate the Committee on Police Affairs and Interior to ensure implementation. I so move, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Seconda. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My respected colleagues, my name is Kabiru Ahmadu, representing the very good people of Musau's Federal Constituency. The Speaker, I am from Zamfara State. The Speaker, I rise to support a motion which was heavily moved by my colleague, Honorable Shaw Ahmad. I so support. Thank you.
Colleagues, I will say to my understanding, it's a very straightforward motion. So do I put the question? Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. That's have it. Motion referred to the relevant committees of the House. The 13th order of the day is a motion on call on the Nigerian police personnel on highway patrol to be dressed in police uniform and properly number their patrol vehicles, standing in the name of Honorable Abdullah Ibrahim Halims. Honorable Halims is invited to move the motion.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Halims is not on the floor. I apply that the motion be stepped down by the leader of the House.
Step down by the leader of the House. The 14th order of the day is a motion on need to ascertain the degree of implementation of the requirements of local content in the Nigerian oil and gas industry. Standing in the name of Honorable Kolade Victor Akinjo, Honorable Akinjo is invited to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My very distinguished colleague, Kolade V. Akinjo is my name. Elijah Sel of Federal Constituency, Elijah man from Ondo State. The motion is on the need to ascertain the degree of implementation of the requirements of local content in the Nigerian oil and gas industry. The House notes that the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Development Nordic Act was enacted to promote indigenous participation in the management and control of the oil and gas industry. Aware that in 2002, the National Committee on Local Content Development discovered that local participation in the upstream sector of the oil and gas industry in Nigeria was less than 5%, meaning that 95% of the then yearly expenditure of about 8 billion left the country through capital flight. Also aware that the National Committee on Local Content Development proposed initial target of about 40% by 2005 and 60% by 2010 for aggregate local content value in the oil and gas industry from all the categories. further notes that the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, NCDMB, was created to regulate and monitor the implementation of the provisions of the Act and ensure that the oil and gas companies comply with the local content practice of the industry. Observe that many Nigerians who worked and gained experiences in international oil companies, among others, have established their own oil and gas outfits. Convinced that the Act provides that there should be a preference for Nigerian companies whenever a bid is made for license, permit, or contract in the industry. Conscious that the Petroleum Technology Development Fund, PTDF, and the Petroleum Training Institute, PTI, were established to train Nigerians as professionals as to meet the labor force demand of that particular act. Also conscious that the PTDF, through its overseas scholarship scheme, has trained over 2,417 MSCs and 642 PhD holders, while 897 students receive training through its local content scholarship scheme. Acknowledges that 1% of total contract sums awarded in the
Honorable Danjuma, take your seat.
Thank you. Acknowledge that 1% of the total contract sums awarded in the upstream sector is placed in the Nigerian Content Development Fund, established for the purpose of funding the development of local content in the Nigerian oil and gas industry. Also acknowledges that the oil and gas sectors account for about 35% of Nigerian GDP and 90% of the foreign exchange earnings. As a result, if Nigerian achieves local content compliance of about 60%, then Nigerian economy will achieve a major boost on account of the oil and gas sector. Concerned that despite the benefits accruing to indigenous oil and gas firms from the NOGIC Act, there's still a low involvement of indigenous companies in that industry. Also concerned that the NOGIC Act has a threshold that applies to projects of about $1 million and above, yet targets stipulated in the Act are far from being met. It's tough that since 2010, the Nigerian Content Development Board has not transmitted a review of the local content schedule in the NOGIC Act to the National Assembly as stipulated in Section 102 of that particular Act. Observe that Indonesia, Venezuela, Kazakhstan, Angola, Brazil, through specific legislations, have had local content successes, and Brazil in particular, the average local content commitment resulting from bid rounds has increased from 27% to about 84% currently. Recognizing that in Angola, the local content target has been meant for unskilled workers and has been exceeded for mid-level staff, while in Malaysia, the utilization of the local content in upstream gas and gas projects is excess of about 54.15%. Worried that Angola, Brazil, Malaysia, and others have achieved higher local content levels than Nigeria, even though all 4 countries discovered oil about the same time in Nigeria. 9 years of the implementation of the Local Content Oil and Gas Industry Content Development Act, Nigeria is still importing about 70% of goods and services in the offshore and deep water projects, while also failing to meet the obligation of providing 100% of goods and services for land and swap operations by Nigerian indigenous businesses. The House therefore resolved to mandate the Committee on Local Content and Development and Monitoring to investigate the implementation of the local content in line with the provisions of the NOGIC Act in the oil and gas sectors with a view to demanding the degree of compliance with the Nigerian Oil and Gas Content Development Act by the industry, as well as investigate the extent of the utilization of the 1% NCF, that's the local content fund, in capacity building, human capital development, project implementation, especially in the catchment areas and value additions in the industry. I so move, Mr. Speaker, my dear colleague.
Seconder, engineer, architect, sorry.
Mr. Speaker, sir, my honorable colleagues, I am Architect Ibrahim and Mustafa Aliyu, member representing Wurno Rabagro constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Sokoto State. I rise to second the motion ably moved by Honorable Akinjo. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable you may give us a synopsis of the motion.
Thank you, my dear speaker, my dear very colleague. My name is Kola Debi Akinjo, and the essence of this motion is to give a legislative teeth and bite to the local content committee to take responsibilities as regards their job in this house. The Local Content Development Act was a product of this house, and the purpose of that Local Content Development Act at that particular time was to cause what I call participation, local participation of Nigerian industry in the upstream sector of our economy. And of course, to cause a process of what I call possibility of enhancing employment and domestication of that particular industry in Nigeria. You will recall from the content of this motion that before that local content law was passed in this country, about 80% of the money accruable in that environment is almost turned to capital flight. 80% of that money was indeed living in Nigeria. And that law gave birth to what I call the Local Content Board, domiciled in Yenagua. And that Local Content Act also gave a responsibility to the Local Content Board to take about 1% of what I call the budget of most of the budget of that industry in the upstream sector. And of course, the 1%, as we talk right now, nobody is too sure of in terms of application of that fund. I recall vividly when the ES came, he said that they've evicted, that particular Local Content Development Board has evicted what I call appropriation window of the House. And to that regards, that there may be no need for them to be all that accountable. So, Mr. Speaker, the purpose of this motion is for us to give a legislative bite to the Local Content Committee to take responsibility of the action. Because, of course, if they do due diligence in terms of investigation of the application of this act by the Local Content Board, it's possible, as we all will agree, that it might lead to what I call the possibility of further domestication of the opportunities in the upstream sector, and also assist in what I call employment opportunities for our people, and also not taking our eyes off the responsibility of this particular house having to do with oversight responsibility to look at how money that is accruable to the Local Content Board is applied. So please, Mr. Speaker, and my dear very colleague, this is an investigative motion. It's very straightforward motion. I request that you support this motion timelessly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further colleagues, in as much we appreciate that members want to contribute, but by our rules, investigative motions are not normally subject to debate. And I want to beg of you this understanding to allow us to put the question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You are alone. The fifth order of the day is a motion on the need for the federal government to support technology. 15th order of the day is a motion on the need for the federal government to support technological entrepreneurs initiative standing in the Honorable Akpan Luke. Honorable Luke is invited to the motion.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Luke.
Asiru, Chairman.
It's not on the floor. I apply that the motion be stepped down by the leader of the House. I so also please proceed.
Respected colleagues, the next order of the day is a motion on the need to investigate the payment of the 7 billion US dollars for the Nigerian Foreign Reserve disbursed to 14 global asset managers and 14 Nigerian banks by the Central Bank of Nigeria since 2006. Standing in the name of Honorable Abubakar Yunus Ahmad, Honorable Ahmad is invited to move the motion.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. My distinguished colleagues, I remain Dr. Abubakar Yunusa, member representing Yamal Chideba Federal Constituency. I am from Gombe State. My motion needs to investigate the non-repayment of $7 billion from the Nigerian foreign reserves disbursed to 14 global asset managers and 14 Nigerian banks by the Central Bank of Nigeria since the year 2006. The House notes that sometimes in 2006, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, disbursed the sum of $7 billion of Nigeria's $38.07 billion USD foreign reserve to 14 global asset managers and their 14 Nigerian banks. They call them local partners. Also, I want the House to note that the 14 global asset managers are, I am mentioning them along their Nigerian counterpart: BlackRock and Union Bank, PLC. Then you have JP Morgan, Chase and Zenith Bank, HSBC and First Bank, Nigeria PLC, BNP Paribas and Intercontinental Bank, USB and United Bank for Africa, Credit Suisse and IBTC Chartered Bank, Morgan Stanley and GTB, that's Guarantee Trust Bank, Fortis and Bank PHB. You have Cominvest and Oceanic Bank PLC, ING and Eco Bank, and the last but not the least, you have the New York and Stanbic Bank PLC. Then the last one is Crown Agent and Diamond Bank. Aware that the Central Bank of Nigeria gave each asset manager and its Nigerian bank